Hi there, and welcome to another edition of the 1% Better podcast with your host, Rob O'Donoghue.
Hello there. Welcome to another episode of 1% Better, episode 115 to be precise. And things are definitely taking off a little bit more in the whole world of 1% Better, but also in podcasting in general. In the last week, I did the first podcast workshop to 15, I think, attended in the Cork International Hotel. Went down really well. Great feedback, great interaction. Thank you for those who have attended and who are giving feedback and hopefully are diving into your own podcast journey, kicking it off, getting it going, getting clear on your why you're doing it, and hopefully you have tools now to do it from a how perspective. So good luck with that. Definitely plan to do more of those. The 3 hours that I did that night just flew by too quickly, and I think we only covered probably 70% of what we planned to, but gave people enough to get started. So looking to do more, both in person, maybe in Cork, maybe in Dublin, other locations, and also potentially doing the online course when I get around to it, getting back into my own location, studio, and having the proper equipment to do it. Hence, I'm still recording these intros on my ATR 2100. So that was the workshop. It was actually on Cork Community Radio at the weekend as well. That was good, just talking about podcasting and giving folks a bit of an insight into the story and how and why they should get started. So hopefully folks might have checked that out. If not, I might put it up at some point on the site. Last week's episode was day one release, download numbers type thing, was the most since the very first episode back in March 2017, which is mad. Maybe because of the topic, sleep. Sleep is something that we all probably look to get better at, and if there's any areas that we can improve our environment at home to get better sleep, maybe that's something you could take from the episode. Matti Verghese was the guest, a sleep expert. Things I took from it: making your room quiet like a cave, dark as a cave, and the idea of if you wake up during the night, not to stay in bed tossing and turning till you get back asleep. After 30 minutes, maybe just get out of your bedroom and walk around, read for a half an hour and go back to the bedroom, because you're not being asleep in the bed builds up a negative sentiment towards being in the bed. So lots of interesting facts and science behind sleep that you should check out in last week's episode. I would encourage you to do so. This week's episode is with a gentleman called Murray Newlands. He's a marketing powerhouse. He's an entrepreneur, an investor, business advisor, speaker, and he has near on 2 million followers on Twitter. Not saying that is a mark of success, but it certainly has a lot of following and a lot of influence as a result. During our conversation, we talked about how you can maximize your value in the work you do, whether it is in blogging or writing or within organizations. Looking at what you do, setting goals, making them incremental goals, very much aligned to the 1% Better mindset, and going day by day towards that. And what was fascinating talking to Murray was the amount of unexpected benefits he obtained as a result of setting a goal. For example, blogging twice a day for 2 years, but all the things that came out of that he never really expected. I can certainly relate to that from the podcasting perspective. He is currently living in the States, in around Silicon Valley, working in a company called Duhigg, which focuses on remote talent sourcing, working from anywhere for large organizations in the areas of software development. Very interesting business model. He's very keen on giving something back, helping others be successful, and that's why he was a perfect guest for this podcast. Hopefully it's one you will enjoy. I really enjoy talking to Murray, and if you're going to take something out of it, know you'll focus in on your best value, how you can deliver that, and also the idea of stepping outside your comfort zone, facing fears, and knowing that there's a fine balance between fear and excitement. So there you go, lots of interesting stuff. Links to Murray in the show notes, and as always, please do help me further expand the reach of the podcast. Share it out, let folks know about it. And if you do want to connect in relating to podcast consulting, put a workshop on, or have an idea for a podcast, just drop me an email, rob@robofthegreen.ie. I would absolutely love to talk with you. And I'll leave it there. Enjoy this one with Murray Newlands and have a great week ahead and weekend, and we'll talk to you next week. Take care and good luck. Hey folks, welcome to another episode of 1% Better, and this one I'm looking forward to talking with my guest Murray Newlands about a slew of different topics. Murray, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me on.
You can hear me nice and clearly. You're in Palo Alto? Or in
Palo Alto, California, yes.
Very good, very good. But obviously from your accent, that's not where you're originating from, so we'll get into that. So Murray, yesterday morning I was up early and on Twitter wasting a few minutes of my day, and I noticed a tweet that you put out. It was kind of timely. You said every goal that has ever been reached began with just one step and the belief that it could be attained. So this show is called 1% Better, so it's incremental improvements as well. So I thought it tied in nicely. And on that one, is that something you've always believed? Where did it kind of you come to the determination that that's how goals are achieved, and you reach that with those kind of criteria?
I now have a 2.5-year-old, and having a child makes you also reflect back on your childhood and where you started out and where you've come to. So I've done many things in my long and varied career. It's meandered in many different directions. I started out, I wasn't the best, most academic student, but I really just persevered through school. But I ended up going to school for law and became a solicitor. Then that was a 6-year process, mm-hmm. and there was a lot of hard work to get there. I would never have thought that when I started out that I might end up achieving that. I didn't know what I wanted to do, and some of my friends were going to do law, and so I also joined them in that. And then I would say that throughout my career, I've managed to achieve lots of different things, and it really is just that approach of one day at a time. This year, for example, 2019. I wanted to get fit and get into shape. So since the beginning of the year, I've lost 22 pounds.
Oh.
And that's been by working out every day and changing my diet. So I work out for 20 minutes in the morning and 20 minutes in the evening. And, I'm a lot fitter than I was. And it's really the process of taking those each day, saying, okay, I'm going to get up, I'm going to do this exercise, I'm going to eat better. Those tiny little incremental steps is the path for achieving success. No one gets overnight success just instantly. It doesn't just instantly happen. Or we read about that, that's the dream, but it's not how we traditionally get there. So, for example, I've written for Forbes, Time, The Guardian, Inc., Entrepreneur. I've been on the BBC. How did I do that? Well, I started out with my blog. Started writing individual blog posts every day. Got to write for slightly bigger publications, slightly bigger publications, slightly bigger publications. And over time, that built up to me achieving the success of writing for bigger and bigger publications. So I really believe that everything that I've managed to do has been through just deciding I want to go in one direction. Usually it's deciding you want to go in one direction, starting something and working really hard at it. And the end goal is not necessarily where you don't end up achieving what you hoped to achieve. You end up achieving something else. But if you don't take those first steps, then you're never going to achieve anything. So it really is about, okay, I want my life to be more successful. I want to achieve more things. I want to achieve more things in different directions. Deciding on some directions you want to go in, some things you want to try and achieve, and just saying, okay, what are the first steps for me getting there? Yes, you can improve your chances of success by understanding where you want to get to. What's the best path for getting there? What are things that are going to make you successful along the way? But it really is just, okay, one foot out the door, getting on with today, focusing on what's going to make you successful today, what's going to make you successful in those first steps, and taking those next steps.
Very good. We'll end the podcast there because I think you've kind of given the exact message that I want to get out of this. So thanks for that, Murray. No, I'm joking. We'll definitely get into more detail. A few things come up for me when you were mentioning that I'm actually I'm a big believer, obviously, in small steps and building to big goals over time. What resonated with me was doing, say, this journey of podcasting and outside the day job, the amount of unexpected learnings and benefits I took along the way. That my goal originally was to, release 10 episodes and kick that off, but now 100 plus. More confidence, more perseverance, developed so many of those skills. And now I'm kind of aware of that, so I know when I'm putting in a target that I want to work towards, I know there's lots of other stuff going to come along. At what point did you kind of realise that was the case in your own career? Like, so when you talk about, doing law or following your goals, whatever they were, when did that kind of light bulb moment happen to say, wow, I'm actually learning a whole lot more than I expected here? Any specific things jump out?
Yeah, it tends to be the moments of success. It tends to be the moments, for me anyway, it tends to be the moments of success where, hey, I've actually achieved something. Look at what I've managed to achieve. And when you achieve those moments of success, you tend to sort of look back and say, hey, I've managed to be successful at this. I can be successful at things. I can achieve things in life. How did I do that? Where did I get to? And where do I want to go next? So actually, and this is for me is a big point. A lot of people, particularly when they're younger, they really try and focus on what it is that they're not good at and try and improve the things that they're not good at. I wish when I was younger, I'd started out also focusing a lot more on what I was good at and having those successes. And as you get, when you're younger, there are lots of things that you need to achieve in life. You need to achieve so many things in life to a degree that you need to achieve in order to just get by in life. But once you've achieved those things to the level which you can function at, I think really trying to find some things that you can achieve which make you happy and give you a sense of achievement. Because once you have that sense of achievement and you can achieve in different things, it's a lot easier to look at harder paths and harder things to achieve and decide, yeah, I'm going to try and go down that path that I know that I can succeed, and so I'm not afraid to take those little steps. And then also you spot other things that people are doing to achieve things. So for my fitness goals, one of the things, two things that kind of spurred me this year. One of them was a work colleague of mine in the office. Before Christmas, he managed to lose 20 pounds, and I was like, he looks amazing compared to what he did 3 or 4 months before. I want to do that, and I know I can achieve it. And then another friend of mine at Christmas posted a Facebook post. He literally had a sheet of paper, and he had 200 lines on it, like 1 to 4 and then strike, 1 to 4 and strike. And last year he worked out 200 times.
Wow.
And he just posted that on Facebook. He was like, I achieved my goal. I worked out 200 times in 2018. And I thought, you know what? That is possible. That is it is practically, physically possible for me to work out 200 times in 2019. That is a really easy visual way of achieving this. And then I got a couple of buddies, and every day we do a workout. Every day we tell each other that our weight and that we worked out. And that also is really motivational because it helps to keep you. I think just the fact of having to tell someone what you've done for achieving that goal is really good at keeping you focused, because they're also sharing the fact that they're doing it. Mm-hmm. So you feel kind of guilted into it on one side because you have to do it to tell them you're doing it, and also it kind of sets expectation in the routine that it's going to happen, and you're moving it along. For me, I'm not someone who's traditionally into fitness and going to the gym, so it's been a bit of a shock to me. And hey, I was just 45 last month, so it's not like I'm starting this as a spring chicken. Yeah. But at the same time, it's been I've come down from a large shirt to a medium shirt. I've gone down from 30 in English speak 34 trousers to 32 trousers, which are now getting smaller. And my wife's like, "Hey, you now have muscles." So, so from being overweight and just sitting behind a desk, I'm like a lot fitter. Who knows where that's going? So, definitely that I really like that visual of just 200 X's on a sheet.
No.
Super easy, super simple, and just it's as much the practice of doing it as it is the goal.
Sure. I'm actually halfway through reading the book The Power of Habits by Charles Duhigg. Have you ever heard of that one?
I have heard of it. I haven't read it, unfortunately. I have heard of it, yeah.
It's absolutely, if you ever needed that extra motivation to even understand why exactly what you're doing is working, it'll explain it. So we kind of intuitively know, but the science behind it is amazing. Like there's the cues of, you know, wanting to get fit, and then the reward of feeling good after it, and then the habit of the routine of doing it is exactly that. There's lots more in it, so that's a huge, at the moment for me, I'm typically, when I read a book of that, I suppose, the depth, I try to create like a PowerPoint presentation as I read it.
Awesome. Extracting
all the key learnings, because I do a lot of maybe presentations and coaching and stuff like that, so it's very, very valuable. What I'm striking me, and the question I want to ask next is, like, you're taking a very deliberate approach to losing weight and building that habit. You've been very successful in your career in lots of other ways. Did you take a similarly deliberate approach in how you became, you know, one of the top 10 people to know in Silicon Valley, or how you became successful in those roles? How did you approach that?
I took a very deliberate approach to a certain extent, and for a reason that it's all about why you want to achieve the goals, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, the fitness and the losing weight was actually because I wanted to look better. So I wanted to come down a shirt size and I wanted to come down a trouser size. So for example, I have a friend who wanted to lose weight and went to the gym, and a lot of people would kind of make this mistake. And so he got a trainer, and in 6 months he was able to lift more weights, but he didn't look any different. He just was stronger. And then he gave up because he didn't really understand his goal. His goal was actually to look better, and he went to the gym to lose weight and look better, but he ended up getting stronger. And so you've got to really understand your goals. So I was working in England and traveling back and forth to the US doing work in America. And then I really wanted to move to America. And I found out you could get a green card, a visa, as an alien of extraordinary ability. And the visa, alien of extraordinary ability, is you have to prove to the US government that you have won awards, you judge awards, you have a lot of press about you, you've written for major press, and there's a number of other criteria. And so I set out to get, because I wanted to move to America, I set out to get that visa. And so that's why I started my blog, and that's why I started to get more and more press about me. And that's why I deliberately had that aim of doing that. And as I was doing that, companies saw what I was doing and said, hey, you're great at doing this for you, so can we hire you to do that for our company? And so that helped me with my career, because I was able to do because I learned to get press about myself. I learned to write about myself, which was content marketing. Although I didn't think about it in those terms at the time, I did content marketing for me. And as I was successful with that, that was an amazing portfolio, effectively, for other companies CEOs of companies to see, and as a reason to hire me to do work for them. And so I set about learning that. I was able to be successful at learning that, and that took off, and that helped to build a notoriety for me. I mean, I started out doing that. I wrote 2 blog posts a day for I think about 2 or 3 years, whilst doing contracting work, whilst based in the UK. That's a lot of content creation.
Just on that, and just on the I find it easier to do a podcast than to write a blog post or an article, and I love writing, but I suppose that even though it might take me longer to do a podcast with editing and whatnot, I just am more probably prone to it. How did you approach getting those 2 blog posts a day out? And, you know, are you a perfectionist versus a good enough person? You know, so I'd be interested to know your approach to try and keep that momentum going, building.
So I don't do that anymore. I think I did get burnt out with it.
Right.
Is the answer. I suppose I just had the goal of building a successful blog. I read an article somewhere by one of my friends who was successful to say that you just have to write a lot in order for it to take off. Certainly that time, you needed 500 to 1,000 articles. And I was like, okay, I can do that if I plot away. At the early days, I was very much just get it out. So it was 2 articles a day, no matter what. Sometimes they were longer, sometimes they were shorter, mainly following news and other things that were happening. I was also fortunate that I did meet this was 15 years ago, when blogging was still comparatively new and comparatively early, who were successful. I have a friend, Steve Hall, who ran AdRants. AdRants had about 1 million page views a month at that time. And he was writing 4 articles a day, which is crazy, following news. So my one thing I would say, particularly for people who are who prefer to communicate orally, think about what you're trying to achieve and how you want to get there, and what your skill set is and your value is within the content creation process, and how you get to your end result. So one technique that I suggest to CEOs, for example, who are very busy doing lots of other stuff, even if they're a great writer themselves, is to think that the actual element of writing and rewriting and drafting and editing and finalizing and perfection is not necessarily something that, even if you have the skills to do, is that where your true value is in the content creation process. So for example, you can as a CEO, you could think of 10 topics which you could write great blog posts for. You could write some notes, but then you could actually come up with a audio note file that was 10, 15 minutes long, kind of like a podcast, and you could give that to a professional writer and get them to actually write the written article following your audio dictation. That's something that you can then, and they can perfect that. They can write their notes on it. They can work on it for a long time. But if that provides your original thought into it, the end piece, which is a written piece of content, and you can maximize your value, which is your input, and minimize your time, but still get the end result that you want, that's a much better approach for many people to creating great written content than it is them spending the time actually writing it. So always think about, what do I want to achieve, and what's the best part of me doing it? In a similar way, okay, you might want a website. You might know what you want. You might see some other examples, but you might not actually be able to design it. You might not actually be able to write it. But you can give your input, and you can make sure you get the end product that you want. So think about the end product, and think about where your value is within the process of getting to the end product, and work on that part, the bit that you can maximize your value.
Very interesting. Again, paralleling it to, I release 1 episode a week typically, because I record it, I edit it. That process takes a lot of time. And then it's kind of the trade-off, whether do I want to release more, where the real value is in this sort of conversation, in my mind, then versus then diluting the value, because if you release too frequently, is there, I suppose in your experience, you're saying, have the 500 to 1,000 articles out there. Is that really an essential to start getting noticed, or have you seen, is the exception where people might just do it infrequently and just get picked up? So
I would say that things have changed a lot in the last 15 years. I would say some things that can, and also I suppose my approach to it has changed a lot. So it's very difficult to get a brand new site, a brand new blog picked up. So I would say, think about where you can write as well, where you might have a bigger audience, better audience, where it might be worth you spending more time writing for. So for example, does the business that you work for have a blog which is already established? Can you write for that in your name, which would give you a much bigger audience to get going? Can you contribute to other people's content, such as appearing on podcasts such as this, where someone already has built that audience, and your value is adding value to that existing conversation, where you get to communicate to someone within an audience that someone else has already created. And so that can, if you've got some really valuable opinion, those one or two pieces of content can do a lot more value, can give you a lot more value than starting your own content and creating your own process. Even writing for local publications, local websites, can give you a lot bigger audience than you would necessarily if you just started out on your own, because it's hard. Getting going is the hardest part.
Interesting. Just to take it back to you, so your goal moved, right? You achieved your goal of getting to the US, writing the blogs, getting the visa and the green card. At what point do you say, right, I've achieved that, then you reset the target and look to a different angle? Talk to me through the next move or what came up there.
So, having come to America, I've done consultancy for a lot of businesses, and then I started 2 or 3 startups of my own, which I was lucky enough to sell. And now I'm working so I did a hosting startup, which we sold. I did an online invoicing company, which I was bought out of. I did a tool to build chatbots, which I sold a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. And now I'm working with Turing, my friend's startup. Mm-hmm. One of the things that's going back to maximizing your value. So there's more and more demand for software engineers in Silicon Valley and around the world. People want highly talented software engineers. And as we get used to working with people remotely, people are looking less looking locally for engineers, and for talent, they're willing to look globally. So Turing finds people from around the world, talented software engineers. We have software engineers in Africa, in Eastern Europe, in Asia, in South America. We bring them on the platform. We test them for 2 weeks. Can they code? Are they good at communicating? Will they work in the time zones of our clients? And then we supply them to our clients on an hourly basis. Why do they do that? Well, we're finding that, for example, if you have a startup that you're trying to build, you might be a great software engineer, but you might want people with other skill sets that complement you. And just being able to outsource that, getting someone else to work on that project, or a small part of a bigger project, or even a huge project, they want to have teams with different types of talented individual. And so we supply those to companies, mainly here in America, but increasingly global as well.
It's an interesting model, yeah.
That's great for both sides. So one of the things is that if you are working, for example, in India in a tech hub, you're probably already working for Google. But we've had feedback from a great engineer in Africa who doesn't live near a tech hub, and he was saying that through Turing he's been able to work with software engineers from amazing companies in Silicon Valley, gain new skill sets that he would never have gained by working on local projects. So we've been able to supply him with work, with money, with skills, and with new knowledge and new understanding that you'll go back into his local community where he is, and that will help encourage the tech ecosystem there. So not only are we helping tech ecosystems in remote parts of the world that wouldn't otherwise have the opportunity to work on amazing projects, we're also helping amazing projects which will change the world, which are being built here in Silicon Valley too. So that is also part of the. I see that I was lucky enough to get a visa. Not everyone is lucky enough to move to a tech hub or be able to get a visa to the place that they want to work. But I think increasingly, globally, we can work from wherever we are on amazing projects if we're given the opportunity. And we're trying to give people the opportunity to both work within those amazing projects and have those projects created by creative geniuses wherever they are in the world.
Do you think that's going to have an impact, even in the short term or maybe longer term, of the actual on Silicon Valley itself and the kind of the physical nature of being there, do you think it'll become less of a requirement? Will there be a kind of a ripple effect there?
I find it's really interesting. A lot of places, a lot of cities around the world are trying to be Silicon Valley. The thing is that the concentration of talent, the concentration of capital, and the concentration of a network effect is really hard to beat, which is why there are so many Silicon Valley companies that are successful. There's a lot of capital here. There's a lot of opportunities for growth. If you want to do partnerships with big companies, the headquarters are here. The companies that are going to buy the startups of the future are here. So there are many reasons for the company having roots here. However, increasingly there are billion-dollar companies being created which have no office, that have no central office, where everyone, including the CEO, works remotely in distributed teams. So absolutely, there are still huge advantages to being in a tech hub, but increasingly companies don't have to be in one place. And as those companies are successful and gain value, they will also be looking to work with other companies that are distributed, that don't have headquarters. So yes, I think it will have an effect on Silicon Valley, although Silicon Valley still seems to have the many advantages that are afforded just by it's just scale and connectivity, I think.
And the high rent, obviously, that's the disadvantage, I would say, from what I'm aware of. As you've sold your companies and been successful in however you might define it, you've become an investor as well. Maybe talk to me about how you started to put that hat on and what you look for when you're doing that. So, the thing is, there are so many opportunities here and great projects. So I've only done small amount of investment in some small projects. So both individually, I invested in a great company called POC Medical. I just really liked what they were doing and the founder's vision. So they have some technology. It's basically a CD size. If you know what a CD, still know what a CD is. Vaguely.
Yeah. A CD-sized disc. You can put, I believe it's 12 blood samples on it. Testing each sample in a machine that's the size of a CD player costs about $500. Approximately. Don't hold me to any of these numbers. You can do breast cancer screening for a very cheap method for doing that.
Okay.
This takes a $1 million screening process down to hundreds of dollars, and it can be used. Those $1 million breast cancer screening machines have to be used by experts. This can be used by much simpler technicians, and that can save the lives of millions, tens of millions of women around the world. So for me, I believed in the founder, I believed in the cause. They've had some success. They've launched very successfully in India. And so there are a lot of things that are aligned on that process. I've also worked with Straight and Access Network of Things Fund as an advisor to help them advise in different projects. Investing in companies is taking a lot of bets and seeing what pays off. But really, you have to have a great project. You have to have an amazing team, and this kind of the stars need to align for everything to come together for a project to be successful.
Okay, very, very interesting. When I'm looking back to your early career when you were a solicitor in the UK, any skills or learnings from that have stood you in good stead over the rest of your career and that you feel that you use on a day-to-day basis? I think as much the struggle of becoming a solicitor was an audious ideal, and I think going through that training and the discipline of learning to get there taught me that one step at a time counts. I think also the just being working through lots of documentation, working through processing things, and working through processes at work.
is really useful as a skill set to learn. I think the other thing was that I realized I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to be a solicitor. I didn't like the work that I was doing. I didn't like the environment. And so one of the huge changes, I think it was when you qualify as a young lawyer, your parents are really proud of you. And when you tell them you're giving it up after 6 years of doing it, they're less than happy with that moment. But what I would say is that having had that change, I've been a lot happier. And I moved into marketing, and I realized that what I was missing was in marketing, you're dealing with creative people, the creative time in their day. And I wanted to spend my career as an entrepreneur and in professional life doing creative things with creative people at times where they were positive in what they were doing. And I think that taking that forward during my career and my life and looking for sort of positive areas to spend time in has helped my life be happier, more creative, and more successful.
You've worked with probably a lot of really good leaders and great leaders over the years, and you're a leader yourself. So what would you say are the kind of standout traits or competencies you think that you need to be a strong leader?
I think it's really all about understanding. In order to be a strong leader, you need to have an understanding of where you want to get to, what you need to achieve, and then finding the right people to help you achieve that. Creating your team who are going to be successful, and then working with that team to encourage and motivate them to help you be successful with that project, and realize you can't be successful with that project on your own. You've got to have the right team for it. And so how do you find them, inspire them? And you need to be able to, so you need to know exactly where you want to go. You need to understand what you need to do in order to achieve that direction. Then you need to convince them and other people that you are the right leader and this is going to be the right team, and they should want to be on your journey with you.
Have you worked, is there any standout influencer or leader that you've had over the last number of years that you've learned? Sometimes you learn some really positive things from, sometimes you learn things that's things that you would not do as a kind of leader. Anything come up there? Things
I've seen that you shouldn't do. If you hire people that are negative and don't have a strong fit with your culture, the cost of having someone who is not a fit for your team and who is negative on the team massively outweighs the immediate hit you might get by removing them. So I've seen too many leaders who have not fired people fast enough. So I would say firing people who are not a good fit faster is a downside, and also good leaders hire and fire quickly. So really, like, the best leadership challenges I've seen are to find those people who are hungry, who want to achieve, and helping them achieve in clearing out anything that gets in their way, so that you can achieve. And I've seen also too many leaders who have who've seen success, and then they see the success that the team is having, and they think that's their success rather than the team's success, and they fire successful people. And once they fire the successful people thinking that it was their success, they then the business does not achieve in the same way that it could have done if they'd managed to hold on to that successful team.
Okay. Well, I might have caught you on the hop there, but it was a good answer, so I like that one. What triggers for me there, if I, hypothetically, have hired people and my gut was telling me very early on that it's not going to work out, but you kind of stick it a little bit. I'm big into intuition. I do try to use it a lot. Do you follow your gut? How do you know when to make a decision based on it? Over your experience, anything come up there?
I think I do follow my gut, and then I set some goals. and I watch out for things that can go wrong, but I give them the opportunity to achieve the goals. Whether part of those goals might be simply for them to try and engage better with other team members, but if they're not able to achieve those goals, and that backs up my gut feeling, then I follow that as a route for wherever I'm going with it.
Okay, cool. I talk about fear on the podcast a bit as well, and things that scare you. What's your relationship with fear?
I think unless you're excited about a new project, and it's both excited about the good things as well as the tough things, I think if you're not driven a little bit by a little bit of fear, then maybe you're not pushing yourself to the boundaries enough. And I think if you stop pushing yourself, it's really easy to get bored. It's easy to get complacent and bored, and you won't achieve what you can achieve. And I think some of the best achievements in life have been where I've looked at things which I've been scared of doing, and I've tried to achieve them anyway. And sometimes I've succeeded what I planned to achieve. Sometimes I've failed completely, and sometimes I've achieved something else. And I think unless you're prepared to fail and have some fear in life, you're not going to achieve what is possible for you to achieve. And I want to try and achieve a lot in life, so I'm willing to take on a lot of things that I'm afraid of, and go for it anyway.
Just on failure, is there any major learning that stands out from a big failure that you've had over your career? I like to ask this one because I have a few that stand out, and it's always been very impactful. What would jump into mind there?
Trying too hard to overcome things which I'm not good at, and not focusing enough on things that I am good at. I think that led to me failing to be successful a lot of times earlier. And also, going back to what I was saying earlier, particularly when I was younger, not firing people fast enough led to lots of difficult situations and lots of challenges. So I would say those things. Really focus on your positives, and when things aren't working out with someone at work, and also if things aren't working out with things in a personal life, take a step back. Why isn't working? Work out why it's not working out. Work out can you change it, and if you can't change it, then it's probably time to move on.
Okay, so just a couple of maybe quick ones. We're coming up near the time limit anyway. What does the future hold? It sounds like you're in a good place. Your work-life balance sounds to be good. I have a 5-month-old baby. Your kid is a little bit older, so I know all about the challenges of trying to balance everything. How do you balance it? And I guess what are you looking forward to? What's the next big goal?
Well, we just moved house last week.
Lovely.
Which with an infant was a challenge. So looking forward to settling in that more. Really, like the startup which I'm working on touring has a very bright future. I'm looking forward to really working on growing that and helping. Like I really like the side of it, helping more people from places all around the world to have amazing careers. So I want to do more to help more people. I think I've been successful. I want to help more people be successful in their careers and their lives, and just trying to work on ways to do that. And as I see, like in my home life, I really enjoy teaching my daughter new things and watching the excitement of her grow and develop and learn the fun of doing new things. I also want to focus on helping other people achieve more. So I think that's what I'm looking for in the future.
No, they're nice, definitely good goals to have. And I guess by coming onto this podcast, you're helping some people do more a little bit as well, sharing some of those learnings. We'll wrap it up, maybe just a couple of quick ones. Piece of advice, any standout piece of advice you've ever been given that sticks with you?
What I would say, a lot of people, I think about starting a new business and they're scared to give up their current job. They're scared to take that first step. I think try and keep your current job and try and start your startup on the side while you're working in your current job. But take that first step and find some other good team members to be part of that startup. And what you're also probably going to work out soon is that your first business on your own might not be successful. In fact, it's probably going to fail. But unless you do that first business on your own, unless you start that first startup, you won't have that first failure, and so you can't learn from it. So while I wish it's successful for you, I understand it might well fail, but actually having that first company and that first failure is a success in your journey of becoming a successful entrepreneur.
Have you found that approach different from in the US than in the UK? The mindset?
Yeah, I think in the US it's a lot more acceptable to be trying new things, whereas in the UK there tends to be the mindset of people not wanting to fail. But I think unless you try, you've got to realize that statistically most businesses fail. Statistically most businesses fail. So unless you try, you won't get started. You're not going to fail. You probably need to have several failures before you have success. So yeah, I think there is a mindset difference between the UK and between the US, but I think you should try and try those new things and realize that some of them are going to be failures, but it doesn't matter. It's those failures that get you to the success.
Very good. Last one, you have a book club, or on your website I've looked at it, there was a kind of a focus on books. You're an author yourself. Maybe any books you would recommend for somebody that is looking to maybe step out and go on their own, or any specific standout books that you've read and enjoyed that you might mention?
Recently I read Play Bigger, which is a book about category creation, which I thought was really inspiring. It's about the way that, for example, Salesforce decided that on-premises software was not the future, but everything in the cloud was the future, and how they built that category and that new way of thinking about things. How Uber didn't set out to replace taxis. It set out to change the way we think about transport. So from the thinking about having a big company, that was a really interesting book.
Very good. Who wrote that one?
No, I actually can't remember.
Okay, no worries. I'll find the link. I have a book page on the website as well. Murray, that was great. Thanks so much for sharing that. It always is a good sign when time flies by. Do you want to just give the usual shout outs of people wanting to check in, connect with you, learn a little bit more?
I'm Murray Newlands you can find me at murraynewlands.com, Murray Newlands on Twitter and on Instagram. I'd love to connect with you and tell me more about your story. Thank you so much for having me on the show, and I hope that was helpful.
No, definitely it was helpful, and if more people connect in with you, you'll probably hit the 2 million mark on Twitter at the moment. I think you're somewhere close to that. So very good. Murray, thanks so much. Have a great rest of Monday. It was lovely to chat with you, and I'll keep an eye on touring over the next weeks and months. I'm sure it'll go successful.
Thank you so much.
Cheers. Hey guys, just before you go, I'd love to hear from you if anything specific stood out from that episode, something you might take away and try and implement in your own personal or professional life to help make you that little bit better. On the other side, is there anything you think I could do better to make the show even more enjoyable, more impactful, and maybe meaningful? So drop me a note, rob@robofthegreen.ie, or connect in on any of the social platforms at Rob of the Green. We also have a community on Facebook. Check that out. If you're really enjoying the show, maybe you could try and leave a rating or a review on iTunes, Apple Podcasts app. Go in there, give us a rating, let us know how we're doing. That'll help with the ranking of the podcast up those charts. The more folks that potentially see it, because we're high up, the better. The more that might listen that never heard of it before. And the goal of the show is to try and reach more and more people and have that impact more and more. So that's down to you. Please do help me with that. I'm not going down the route of hiring podcast promoters, quote unquote, from other parts of the world, because they say they can help with the ranking, and I don't really believe them, or it's not very authentic. Help me do it in an authentic way. I'd really appreciate it. This year I'm going more all in on Patreon, so it's $3 a month. You can sign up, subscribe to Rob of the Green on patreon.com. That will give you access to Patreon only content. Nearly all the episodes of the 864 podcast are on there, and new ones will be added only there. The 1% Better show will have early releases there, but will still come out for free on robofthegreen.ie. There'll also be live shows this year, some phone-in shows, extra content. €3 a month will, hopefully, the more folks that subscribe, allow me to do more and more stuff on there, add more and more content. At the end of the day, that's the price of a pair of socks, maybe, that you might lose, or a coffee. One way or the other, it's up to you. If you want to join, you'll still get free stuff otherwise, but if you're enjoying what we're doing, help us grow, help us expand it. I'd really appreciate that. Adding new stuff onto the website all the time. There's an affiliates page under the Be Better drop down. Check in there. There's training courses that you can sign up to. More and more stuff will come in over time. Into season 3 now of this fun journey. Huge learning. Hopefully you're getting something from it too. Stick with it. Let's keep going. Enjoy the journey even more. Have a great day, week, weekend, and thanks for checking it out. Good luck.